Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And first of all, this is take two. As you can see, I only have about an hour left to make EVE Talk before a downtime. Unfortunately, the recording PC crashed during the recording, so I have to try again. I'm gonna try and make good speed and see if I can get it done. If you're curious, I did manage to join the mass test on Thursday as well. This one was on duality, focusing on some graphical upgrades for EVE. That video should be coming next week as well. Anyways, we are here for the market. Gonna be a fast one this time. We've got plex as always, starting at 50 seconds. All right, so when it comes to plex, we have some hesitation basically. We're at around 1,070,000,000. First few sellers coming in at 1,068,000,000, which is exactly where we were last week. Buyers are at 1,026,000,000, and on the chart here we can clearly see that we're going sideways at the moment in the plex market after the Ascension expansion crashing the price down substantially. What I find most interesting about the 1 year chart here at the moment is that we can see that last year we peaked at this point, and so I'm really curious to see in the next few months if we're actually going to start going down once again in the plex market, because if we do, we could actually find ourselves at a very good bottom pretty soon. 900 million is my target to start buying, but you can see that we reached 850. Starting from much lower, we could go even lower if we're lucky, of course. So plex market looking pretty interesting in the upcoming months, but right now, of course, we are hesitating a bit. The multiple pilot training certificate taking a bit of a dive down at the tail end. It's not that substantial, but it's probably due to CCP's current special offer where you subscribe to the game and you actually get a multiple pilot training going on the account. So that is why we see a little bit of a dive in the price of the training certificate. The pilot body resculpt is also going back down quite substantially. What I'm seeing here is that since the Ascension expansion, we basically have a bit more of a correlation between the body resculpt and the and plex themselves. I think that people actually calculate because you can convert, I think it's plex to ORM to the this body resculpt certificate, and as a result, considering the small volumes that we have at the moment, selling for 259 million, buyers are at 212 million, these small volumes to me indicate that there will be a stronger correlation between plex and the body resculpt, because it's very easy for us now to be out of body resculpts for less than 260 if they become very cheap comparative to plex prices. But if plex go down, then it's very easy for a couple of them to be converted to try and grab the 4 or 5 that are traded every day in general. When we've got the skill extractor, of course, very strong correlation to the plex market as well. The interesting part here is that the 5-day moving average is crossing the 20-day moving average, keeping a bit of margin here. So this is clearly also hesitating, but with a bit of down pressure in the skill extractors. We still have massive volumes of these, of course. Even in the last 24 hours, we still see hundreds of them coming to the market, selling for 244 million. Buyers are at 238 million, not that much margin. Skill extractor market, a bit of a second indicator, I think, together with the body resculpt, that plexus may come under pressure pretty soon. And finally, we have the skill injectors. This one is actually pretty interesting as well. We have the same move down in price as with the multiple pilot training certificate. So I think that noticing the action that CCP is taking at the moment with offering dual character trading, people are expecting demand for skill injectors to slow down a little bit. And as a result, we actually have a surprisingly low amount of new sell orders in skill extractors. So I actually think that some of the major players and speculators at the moment are saying, you know what, I'm just not going to try and compete in the market with expected lower demand of people getting multiple tunes training just for subscribing to the game, and thus they're trying to keep the price of the skill injectors pretty healthy. That's my read on this market. One thing that I forgot here on the plex market is, of course, to take a quick look at the perimeter trade happening. Sellers are down to 1,046,000,000 in perimeter. You can also see that it's pretty sizable market until we reach the JITA station, we have several pages of sell orders coming in here, including 50, 10, 20. And when it comes to the buyers, from 1,026,000,000 we're up to 1,030,000,000. So that's quite a bit more limited. But on the seller side of things, a lot of action in the perimeter market here. A decent margin between selling in perimeter and selling in JITA as well. It's quite interesting to see that probably a single player has managed to attract quite a bit of trade only in this product in general, mostly just in plex, but that should be pretty that's pretty sizable, a market that is being traded there in the perimeter citadels. Next up, after plex, we have some minerals at 6 minutes. And that is not good news for us HiSec miners, because I think we should the titanium chart is the one that you'll want to see. It's not good news for the people that are mining for HiSec minerals. You can clearly see a dive down on even higher volume, so that's a major dumping happening again, despite the fact that we're already well below 5 ISK. Titanium currently selling for 4.4 ISK. Despite that, we still have 1.5 billion units coming in here, 1.9 billion units coming in here at 441. You can see that it's a lot of sell orders that are coming in a couple of days ago. Just continued dumping, continued pressure on the titanium market. Pretty much 1 year lows, no, definitely 1 year lows, very close to all-time lows. I think buyers are at 426. When is it time to make a move on this? I'm not exactly sure, but this almost feels unnatural to have the second leg down here. So I have 1 hour left. Here is the pyrite chart, also not looking too good on higher volumes. We have a continued downtrend as well to close to 6 ISK. And here on lower volumes, though, in the last few days at least, we're hesitating a bit. So maybe a bottom is forming, but I thought the same was happening here in titanium, and yeah, just is not happening just yet. So pyrite is selling for 625, buyers are at 6 ISK, and we do have one big buyer of almost 2 billion units here at 593. But when it comes to the sellers, yeah, they're hesitating. You can clearly see that in the last 24 hours we don't have that many huge sell orders, and so here pyrite, hopefully it'll form a bottom, because for HiSec miners this is not a chart you would want to see. One that you do want to see though is Mexalon, the only HiSec mineral that is still going quite strongly. And you can see here a bit of a resurgence in the last few days towards 74 ISK. Sellers are at 77.34 ISK, quite high, very, very respectable price for Mexalon. So if you're mining in HiSec at the moment, mine for Mexalon, especially if you need the ISK. Buyers are at 70. That is of course pretty much a 1 year high, so that's not bad for the Mexalon market. Isogen though, even more bad news, continuing to go down as well. Just before the year we had a bottom of 59 ISK. We tried to come back a little bit. Unfortunately, volumes are going up and are continuing to push the price down towards never before seen, I think, Isogen prices. 55.78 for the sellers, 52 ISK for the buyers. Very, very cheap. Mexalon, 1 year low. So we actually got even lower than the 59. At first, 60 ISK seemed like a strong resistance. Now 55 ISK is going to have to save Isogen. We might go even lower. I wouldn't risk the gamble right now, although at some point, of course, the trick is going to be time the bottom of these HiSec minerals. Next up, we've got Noxium. This one, even more bad news, 1 year low once again, at least in the last few days, just like with pyrite. We're hesitating here, which is on higher volumes, so that makes this one more interesting. We have sellers at 354 pretty much, and buyers at 322. Here we actually have an end to the lower prices on higher volumes, which means that I think more people are starting to make the investments. They're starting to take their positions in Noxium at the current prices. So that is the first indication of a possible bottom forming. All the others, unfortunately, here are stabilizing on lower volumes, and so if someone wants to dump even more pyrite, they could actually get the market down even more. When it comes to the Nosec minerals, let's start here with Zydrite. Zydrine, we had to give back ground after reaching almost 1300 ISK, currently trading for 1100. Sellers 1127, buyers less than 1000 ISK, 982. That's quite a decent margin between these two, but I think this is a bit of a natural pullback after the very sharp rise up to almost 1300 ISK. When it comes to Megasite, we have a bit of a different story. That one is actually going back up towards the second spike, trying to get back towards 1600. Sellers 1577, very good price. If you still have some Megasite left from your buy opportunity after the Ascension expansion, then you could make some decent money on that. Buyers are at 1428. What I find interesting here is that this is basically more of a natural situation for Zydrine and Megasite. We had a very worrying trend, I think, throughout the summer, where Zydrine and Megasite were basically trading on par. We even had a few ETH talks where Zydrine was selling for more than Megasite. That was almost pandemonium in my head. I couldn't explain it. It felt completely unnatural. So this here, Megasite at a higher point, maybe being speculated back up a little bit, maybe drying up a little bit as well is possible too. And much higher than Zydrine, feels like more normal market forces dictating these prices. Zydrine climbing that quickly to 1300, having to give back ground, I think is normal. Megasite doing a double jump is something that happens, that tends to happen more often as well, because, well, it is of course the most valuable mineral, and one big speculative buy, which we can see right here happening, can drive the price back up quite substantially. But at least Zydrine is worth quite a bit less than Megasite. So that feels like it's natural, like it's normal. The Tritanium chart doesn't feel all that normal to me, to be honest. So when it comes to Morphite, we have a bit of hesitation as well. We went up to almost 12,000 ISK, currently back to around 10,000 ISK. So your sell opportunity is over, is your buy opportunity here. If you want to buy for less than 10k, sure, buyers are at 9,661. Sellers are at 10,253, so an average of 10,000. But we can see that the previous buy opportunity was actually a bottom of close to 8,000. ISK that on one day, but 8,500, 8,600 as a bottom was definitely possible. So historically speaking, 10,000 as an investment price has always been decent, but we need something major to happen in nullsec with lots of tech tool loss or something like that to actually make that investment worth it at the moment, which is a bit of a gamble. If you want to wait for less than 9,000 ISK on the buyers and be more certain, certainly understandable as well. In general, the mineral markets, high-sec minerals still going down, most of them, Mexalon going strongly, and I feel like more natural market forces have taken over Zydrine and Megasite once again. Next up, PI, that's at 1315. The PI markets that was also covered in my first take, which unfortunately crashed, so I can go through these decently quickly as well. Construction blocks slightly up, so a bit above average, but not by that much. Currently selling for 12,500. Okay price to sell. Buyers are at 11,500. What we do notice is basically that the margin has widened a little bit and that we don't have a lot of fresh supply. You've got a couple of sell orders, and the latest one is coming in actually at 23,000 units. Is going to probably stop the increase in price just right here. But last time I was checking here, we only had these smaller sell orders, only 5 of them. So right here, basically supply dried up a little bit, prices went up on regular demand, and this was bound to happen at some point. Someone comes in with a lot of construction blocks to try and take advantage, is gonna set a new max for the price, and will probably correct back a little bit from this point. Still, we're around average. Consumer electronics are quite interesting in the sense that they're coming back from lower price points towards average price points. I don't think we're there just yet. 11,621 seller, 12,900 is probably the okay price that you want to shoot for the sellers. 11,600 for the buyers here. But coming from a low price point, right? Coming from median daily price of close to 10,000 ISK, which was well below average. Basically, your chance to invest in consumer electronics looks to be over. Coolants working on a 1-year high. Time to sell, time to make this. which is very, very surprising to see sellers at 15,800 ISK, buyers at 15,600 ISK. Very, very high prices for coolants at the moment, especially considering you can make this on gas planets, which are very common, and you can make this from just aqueous liquids and ionic solutions, I think, are the base materials, which are very plentiful on any gas planet. So right now, I think it's basically time for me to again run this much more closely, because I'm producing this as well, and you're getting crazy good prices at the moment. Enriched uranium next as well, going back towards an average for 13,000-14,000 ISK after a bit of a break here before the year. 12,000 is probably a little bit below average there. 14,200 for the sellers, 13,600 for the buyers. Basically a little bit of a comeback for enriched uranium towards average prices. Mechanical parts next, also 1 year high, bit of hesitation at the tail end, but again, barren planets, pretty easy to make. Definitely something that I'm making as well on 2 planets, so I need to get back there and sell. 13,731 for the sellers, some supply coming in, so you can clearly see that almost a full front page of new sell orders is going to start to put a top on mechanical markets, increase in price, but buyers are also at 13,700, so you can basically buy straight to this market at 1 year high prices. Oxygen next, also coming back a little bit, so here we had average prices of probably around 400 ISK, which was a little bit below average, currently going back towards 511, 512 for the sellers, 475 for the buyers. I would put the buyers actually at the average price right now, so definitely okay, bit of a comeback for Isogen. Robotics was interesting as well, also still at a respectable high point, above average, but we can also see that we're coming closer and closer to 100,000 ISK on the seller side of things. Buyers are at 98,000 ISK, so it's definitely still okay to sell. It's a good market, but I think it's starting to come under pressure as well. This will be a second top that is going to start to go down. Rocket fuel next, that was the boring one, with very bad average prices all over the place, but a couple of weeks ago we surged up quite substantially and we're still around there, although slowly going down as well. The sellers are at 13,950, so not above 14k anymore. Buyers are at 13,111. Basically, I think here that we have a bit of a slow move on sell orders, because you can see 83 days, 23 days here. A lot of these are older. You don't see a rush on the rocket fuel opportunity. I think it's because it's been so stable for an entire year that you basically don't have a lot of people that have huge stocks of rocket fuel ready for this one opportunity in a year, and so it's more people that are probably slowly switching production possibly from some of the other ones. Self-harmonizing power cores, the pattern continues, slow descent since the Ascension expansion or just before that, which is normal. You need these for structures. All of this is being absorbed by the market. Sellers are at 2.1 million, buyers are at 1.9 million. Basically on this one, you could keep an eye on it for speculation. The one trigger, that the timing that you need to keep in mind then is, when do you think CCP will announce the drilling platforms, the next set of structures, and try to be ready just before that. A possibility I think is strong could be FanFest, so it's something I'm using over myself. It's a possible speculative move that you could make, but of course I think right now you need to give it its time. You see that pressure, don't go in buying huge volumes just yet, but try to make the right timing of starting to buy. When do you expect CCP to announce the drilling platforms? Superconductors next, after a bit of a double spike here, but I think this is an anomalous data point. We're basically back to an average, slightly above average price now, selling for 14,243, buying at 13,000 for superconductors. Pretty wide margin. I would say you're selling a bit above average and you're buying just around average. Test cultures next. This is quite an unusual chart because it's pretty violent. You have very strong June, very strong pushback throughout the summer, which historically has been quite different. Most of these actually have a decently strong summer. If we look at enriched uranium, again in September, pretty good. Mechanical parts, not so much. Oxygen, pretty strong summer. Robotics, very strong summer. We've got the coolants doing okay. Consumer electronics, very strong summer here. For the test cultures, Early summer, very strong, very violent pushback in September, very strong again here all of a sudden in December, and now we're back in very low territory. So test cultures are currently selling for 8,790, buyers are at 8,000 ISK. There's not a lot of them. I think there's a slight buy opportunity in the test cultures, and we can see you can now buy them for around 8,000 ISK. You had 2 sell opportunities last year for 15,000 ISK, almost a double of the current price range. And yep, test culture's pretty violent one that seems to be moving all over the place. Wetware mainframe finally, it's slowly under pressure as well. You can see the 5-day moving average again at the tail end going down, but this one has, in my experience, been the bottleneck of structured production, and as a result it's going much slower, going down much slower than the power cores, for instance. So here we have sellers are at 2.8 million, almost a little bit below that. Buyers are at 2.3 million. So yeah, wetware mainframes may be good to try and gamble an increase like that on an announcement of drilling platforms, but it's a big gamble. You need to get the timings right for that. All right, so that was PI. Next up, Take One chips, 2115. All right. Definitely saved a little bit of time there. I switched them up a little bit, so it's something that I was trying to do and never really got into the habit. But last week and the weeks before that, we had Caldari and so we had Tristan and Merlin, Caldari and Galente frigates, and then we switched races for destroyers, switched back to cruisers, etc. This week I switched it around. So starting with Apocalypse, a Mar battleship, we can clearly see the effect of the very cheap minerals on the bigger battleships here. At the Ascension expansion, we averaged around 1.8 million, 1.7 to 1.8 million, 170 to 180 million. Now here, after the Ascension, we're going down. Apocalypses are selling for 162 million, buyers are at 146 million. Definitely the impact of the mineral market on the battleships showing up here as well. Arbitrator next, that one was still doing all right, current average prices 8.35 million is okay. We had a strange October peak here after a September 1-year low, probably of around 6.7 million, jumping up to 10, almost 11 million. That was not bad. Then of course the Ascension expansion happened, and so here we are under pressure. But we're still average on the entire 1-year chart, maybe a little bit below that, and for such a small market, because we really don't have a lot of demand and we don't have a lot of supply, the Arbitrator is actually doing surprisingly well for people that are producing these. Then Bellicose next. I think this is where we crashed last time. Let's hope that that's not an indicator. Well, actually it's doing weirdly again. Let's move to the Breacher. Oh, here is the Bellicose charts. Right, we're not crashing, good. So the Bellicose here, well, it's a little bit trickier to see, a bit of a delayed response as well. In December, we're going down in price towards 7.75 million from 8.8 million. So this could be due to the lower mineral prices, but we're clawing our way back up towards 8.6 million. So again, a cruiser, 8.6 million for the sellers, a bit below average, but not by that much. Very low demand here as well. So these markets are doing surprisingly well, despite the low volumes and the low activity that I'm seeing here. Next up, we've got the Breacher, so a Minmatar frigate. Bit of an ascension spike, I think, here up to 850,000 ISK. That unfortunately crashes down to a 1-year low of 320,000 ISK, and currently we're crawling back as well, so we're below average, not by that much. 440,000 for the sellers, 395,000 for the buyers of Breachers. There's not much to say except that this one spike, probably Ascension related, saw a very good time for Breachers all of a sudden, selling for 500, 600, maybe even 800,000 for a couple of days, on, well, very much interest of the alpha clones, but that has died down quite quickly. Next up, we've got the Brutix Galente battlecruiser. Brutix also, you know, it's not a battleship, but it's definitely one of the bigger ships. And here again, you can see November with the Ascension expansion causing quite a bit of problem for the Brutix market. And we're currently trading well below average, selling Brutix for 48 million, buyers are at 42 million. These are very cheap Brutixes at the moment because of the cheap minerals. Catalyst next. That is quite interesting, maybe a little bit worrying as well. We have this huge volume spike, jump up in price here after, well, we were at a pretty low bottom price. This could be related to some preparations for a JITA, burn JITA that has been announced by the goons. 1.2 million for the sellers, 1 million for the buyers. If you can make these, maybe you can try to bring them to the market, hoping that there will be that demand during burn JITA. Cormorant next, Caldari Destroyer, of course, not going to be used in ganking and thus much more stable. It's also only a destroyer, so the impact of the mineral prices is much less pronounced, but we're still trading, I think, a little bit below average at 1.1040 million, so 1,040,000 ISK, and the buyers are at 900,000 ISK, very low demand here as well for the Cormorant. Next up, we've got the Crucifier doing, well, not much to say because of this anomalous data point. We're extremely stable on the chart. I can maybe drive this up a little bit. You can see just basically very stable at around 383,000 for the sellers. No demand whatsoever for Crucifiers. Here's the Drake. Again, battle cruiser, very interesting that in November we can clearly see this trend break, trying to hold on 50 to 55 million for a long time. Here, trend break, nope, cheap minerals driving the price back down. Also a bit of a spike just like with the Brutix here, probably some buying on very cheap Drakes, but the momentum is unstoppable. Drake's currently selling for 46 million, buyers are at 42 million, very, very close to the Brutix market as well, very cheap Drakes. Retriever next, always have a mining ship in here as well. I'll try to, quite interesting. Retriever, I think very popular Tech 1 mining ship for prospective miners that are in the process of skilling up. And here we also have, although it starts in October, the general downtrend to lower prices. 23 million for Retriever, 23.5 million and 20.7 million for the buyers is very, very cheap. And yeah, definitely 1 year low price at the moment. I think most of this, oh no, actually this has two parts to the story. You have less mining in mining barges because of the Orca and the Orcal changes, and then of course you also have the cheap minerals that are compounding the problem since November, causing this decrease in price right here. This one probably a speculative bubble. You don't want to have bought these at 29 million to be honest, but there you go, very cheap Retrievers. Finally, the Tempest. So we have one data point here that is screwing the chart up just a little bit. But again, Minmatar battleship, very, very low volumes. And here in November, you can see 180 million ISK down to 140. Bit of a jump up on these very cheap prices, but the pressure is still on 150 at the moment. Selling for, come on, Tempest, load. Well, we still have 40 minutes. I think we'll be all right, although I do want to check something that has a lot of stuff in it for the extra product. 157 for the sellers, 130 for the buyers. A lack of demand, pretty visual once again right here. Next up, Tech 2 ships, 2830. All right. I'm gonna try to go through this pretty quickly, although at this point it's new recordings, first time that I'm seeing the data here as well. Here is the Ares going down in price. Honestly, the interesting part would be buy orders at this point. For the Ares, 19.2 million. I would consider that pretty cheap considering that it is around here on the chart, well below most of the other stuff, close to this bottom right here. So Ares, I think, is coming into buy order territory if you can grab it from the buy orders. The Claw next. Couple of lovely spikes here on high volumes. So this is definitely one that is being used quite substantially, probably bought by Nosek in order to make fleets, and the latest data point is quite low, so we would have to look here at 20 million if we can get there on the buyers. 20.8, maybe a bit too high, but considering where the spikes went, it's possible as well if you want to gamble on some buying. maybe a bit early as well. It's possible that pressure is going to build after this spike and that we will get buy orders close to 20 million. That's when I would definitely be willing to risk a little bit on the claw. The Crow next also breaking down after a nice speculation, going up to 28 million, currently trading for, god damn it, doesn't want to load. Sellers 22.8 million, buyers 21.2 million. Very small margin, 21 million on the chart though is quite okay on the buyer side again for interceptors. So if you're expecting a war, if you know about a war, I think you could look into buying some interceptors. Aries very interesting as well here. This is an anomalous data point going even lower right now, less than 40 million, 40 for the sellers, 35 million for the buyers. If you look at the general chart, you can sell this for close to 50 million, is also starting to be quite interesting. Flycatcher next, that is just too stable. Unless a real trend break would happen here all of a sudden, I would not be touching that one. Much more interested in the Aries. The Heretic though, quite interesting as well. We had a sell opportunities a couple of weeks ago. We're now already back down to 47 million. Probably big supply, yep, and still coming in. Down to 47.5 million. Buyers are at 41 million. Where is that on the chart? Around here. That is definitely coming into interesting territory as well. But again, we need high action to make that worth it. Hound, lovely double spike here. That was pretty damn great. If you had gambled on some hounds, currently buying for 19 million pretty much, which is pretty low on the chart. Respectable. You could also make a move on this one. Quite surprising, right? All the spikes are over. A lot of them seem to be pretty interesting. Malediction, I would hesitate. Well, 19.7 million is pretty low on the charts, definitely below most of it. So you could try to buy them, but the volatility is not as interesting as with the Hound, as with the Crow right here, as with the Claw right here. So yeah, bit more of a gamble on the Malediction, to be honest. Manticore next, Stealth Bomber, also 2 spikes, a bit more timid, but 28 million is definitely not bad. Where are the buyers at 22 million? I would say a bit too early, but considering the entire chart, it could be alright to start investing in these as well. Nemesis next, selling for 22, buyers are at 20 million. Here we had another lovely spike sell opportunity at 29 million. So, well, buyers 20, maybe still a little bit too high actually for the Nemesis. 19 million, we need to get rid of a couple hundred more, maybe 100 more, a bit more than that. So still too early, I think. Demand is a bit too high. Purifier next, coming off of a sell opportunity as well at almost 30 million, now going back down. Average price is quite substantially. Where are the buyers at? That's pretty important. Buyers are at 21.2 million. There's still quite a lot of them. Still a bit too early as well in my book. And finally we have the Saber. Again, coming from a nice sell opportunity as well. 65 million. Currently holding at 54 million. Sellers 59, buyers 52. No, definitely too early to be buying a Saber. So yeah, if you're looking for those investments, I would say look at some of these interceptors, maybe a couple of stealth bombers as well, like the Hound, that have known some very nice volatility. Next up, Tech Tree ships. That would be at 33.15. Okay, and here, one thing that I've read on Reddit, so you know, it's not completely fully research based truth that we absolutely know is 100% true, but someone was saying that they were driving down the tactical destroyer markets just to drive all the margins out of the production and then somehow make it up with volumes. It doesn't make that much sense to me, but considering the pattern of sellers that keep coming in here with huge volumes, despite the fact that we're at 29 million for the sellers, 28 for the buyers, it is definitely very plausible. To be honest, if you have a longer horizon, that means that I think you could gamble on buying some of these destroyers. So here, Confessor 1 year low and still huge volumes being sold here. Don't go crazy, don't buy hundreds of these, but small investments I think in these tactical destroyers to try and take a bit of an advantage of the situation would make sense. Here are the Hecates. Fresh sell orders, 120, 120, 60, 60 again at 29 million, just driving down the price. There's no margin left in this whatsoever. Trying to pick some of these up I think could be okay to do, but again, have that longer horizon. Next up here, we've got the Jackdaw also being driven down quite substantially. 1 year lows once again, selling hundreds of them at 29 million. Is just going to keep. This is crazy. This needs to be absorbed by the market, but once it is absorbed, there is a possibility of this making you some money. So I think it's quite interesting. We've got this Vapel here as well, currently selling for 30 million. 29 million. They're coming in here as well. First few sellers coming in even below that, 28.7 million as well. So keep this in mind. Someone is dumping everything they've got at 29 million ISK. Do you have a longer horizon and do you like the 1 year chart here? You may want to invest a little bit, but I would say don't go overboard. Don't buy hundreds and hundreds of these, because you'll never get rid of those at higher prices. If you buy a couple dozen, then of course I think over a sell opportunity you might be able to get a much better price. Next up, the cruisers. Here is the Legion chart. Also, definitely at a low price point, but 130 million. It's close to the 1 year low. And then here, fetching orders. What's the supply situation looking like? So obviously all these destroyers were crazily oversupplied. And for the market volumes, this still almost a full front page, 2014, 2019, here coming in at 133 million. It's also oversupplied despite being very low, at very low prices. Loki chart next, try to crawl back a little bit, currently selling for 130, crawl back from an even lower price. Fresh sellers though are drying up, less than 130. Buyers are at 120 million for Loki's. Pretty cheap stuff as well. Proteus next, 1 year low. We're going even lower. That's pretty crazy as well. Currently selling and still being sold at 132 million. Buyers are at 120 million. And then finally we have the Tengu as well. Double dip down back to low prices. 1 year low prices. 133 for the sellers, 115 million for the buyers. Talk about cheap Tengus that you could try to pick up right there. So the Tech Tree market in general, and there is a person claiming that he's the one doing it. Couldn't fully understand it myself, but all right. How you make money on dumping Jackdaws for 29 million, but okay. Maybe trying to drive out every other producer is a possibility. But honestly, that would be a pretty major gamble in my book. But in general, the Tech Tree market is way oversupplied and at 1 year low price points. And if you can pick some of these up, I think on the buyer side of things, especially if like in the Tengu they're being dumped at 133, but you could buy them for 15 or even less, 115 or even less, then that is a great opportunity for you to pick up some of these cheap ones. Again, if you have a longer horizon, be a bit patient, and then at some point I do think you can make money on this. Finally, for the extra product, out of personal interest at 38 minutes, I'm going to try and see for some of these structure rigs, because I haven't put, so we have structure modifications for the engineering rigs for the medium, because I haven't put any of them in myself. If they're decently doable, well, advanced component, that's almost 500 million ISK. This is not available, or still fetching orders, 600 million ISK. For this one, all right, 600 million again, 65, yeah, all right. Just to get a feel of the price ranges, let's maybe also take a quick look at the charts on some of these. Small ship manufacturing, yeah, okay, so they started pretty low, then they went up, and it's very new. So all of this is of course since their launch, so we're not gonna get all of that charts. Just average prices for medium rigs here seem to be 500 to 600 million ISK, which is a sizable investment to make. But of course it could be useful. Here we have Blueprint Copy Accelerator, actually only costing 400 million ISK, and I'm actually interested in that one, because I think that if you want more ISK for your Blueprint copies, you want to make them as quickly as possible. decreased time requirements when copying in their upper structures. That's interesting. 400 million, definitely one that I might be interested to invest in because I would have something from that one. It would be useful to me. But yeah, 400 to 600 million is the price range for these medium, well, some of them are even 1.4 billion. Oh, that's for Tech 2s, of course. Yeah, Tech 2s are above $1 billion. So that's definitely an even bigger investment. Quite interesting. So medium rigs, engineering rigs, we are talking about 400 to 600 million for the Tech 1s, and very low availability, almost 2 billion. Almost 2 billion for the Tech 2s. Let's take a look at the large ones, which are much less plentiful, but 4 billion for a Tech 1, yeah, around there. 4 billion for a Tech 1, holy crap, that's quite a lot. Yeah, in fact, 400 million to 600 million for a Tech 1 rig is almost as much as what the engineering complex itself, the hull, costs. That's pretty crazy. All right, so the largest ones, almost 4 billion for the Tech 1s, and the Tech 2s are just not being made. And then for the extra large ones, let's see if anything is up here. That's not even available just yet. Okay, quite interesting. It's an investment to make. Honestly, at this point for me, for a solo player, very small core player, if you want to do investments, I would stick to Tech 1 on these medium structures. Things that I might buy myself is Blueprint Copy Accelerator. When it comes to the manufacturing, I would always go for material efficiency first, because that basically reduces the cost of everyone using the facilities. And this is being made and decently affordable. At some point, I may actually make the investments for some rigs on the engineering complexes as well. We'll see if I find the time to grind the ISK, or maybe make a good trade in that Tech 3 market. That could be possible as well. Anyways, that's what I wanted to check for ETH Talk this week. A bit of a shorter one because of a crash, as I've said, but thank you very much for sticking with me. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.